Well, we have a little bit of clouds up here tonight, but, well, it's also because I have this new flashy, beautiful UACNJ hat on right now, sporting the spaceship with the aliens look. So, they are coming for me. That's okay. I have to thank Chris for this hat. I appreciate it so much. And I also have this beautiful backup tail light, if I can get it turned on behind me here. I think I'm on. Am I on?
How are you supposed to turn it on?
There's a little clippy around the ring someplace up there. Perfect, guys. Come on down. Welcome to UACNJ. I see you guys brought some chairs and blankets, which is fantastic. So come on around this way, guys. Make yourself at home over here. We have roughly about 3 minutes until we get tonight's program started. So that should give everybody enough time to come on over and get situated and sit down. Make yourself at home. Guys, thank you very much for making your reservation for this evening's program. And as always, just in case you can't join us up here in person, we do our best to stream live on YouTube and on Facebook. We did run into a little bit of a glitch earlier today. We seem to have worked all the kinks out. So hopefully tonight's program will go off flawlessly without a hitch. Great program for you guys tonight. Back to School Science, going to be done by two of my great friends, Sean and Sebastien. Yes, this young man is going to be giving the presentation tonight. So, couldn't be more proud of him. Great father over here. With that being said, it's just about time for me to turn tonight's program over to our MC, Kim. She's going to give you a little bit of background information on Sean and Sebastien, run you guys through a couple of important key pieces of information to get you through your night at UACNJ. And then after that, you guys will head up the driveway right there to check out some beautiful slideshows of some great astrophotography. And if the sky clears up, we'll open up those telescopes and we'll look at some great things tonight. Well, with that being said, I think it's just about that time. And I'm going to turn it over to Kim.
Go get Jeff.
All right. So thank you, Matt, so much for that intro. Like you said, Hello? Hello? Okay. I'm just surprised because sometimes you can usually hear myself through the speaker and I wasn't sure. So, like Matt said, we are not only have this presentation every Saturday, April through October, live on site in Jenny Jump State Forest in Hope, New Jersey, but we also stream this on YouTube. I am actually monitoring our YouTube and online chats so that we can get questions from them as well as answer questions you guys have. So, like you said, check us out on YouTube. Also check all our past broadcasts, our past talks since the pandemic started basically, are currently on YouTube. So you can always, if there was something really interesting you saw tonight that you wanted to see again, or if you wanted to check out our past broadcast, you can always do that. You can also hit the like, subscribe, and I think there's like a little bell notification if you want to get notifications, where if you can't make it out here to our in-person presentation, you'll still get notified when we go live. So we have our website, uacnj.org. That is where you will find all the information about our member clubs, how to be an observer here, which I am. You can also find out what our talks are for our entire speaking season. So you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our new chat platform, Discord. And with that, a couple safety advisories for you guys who are actually here. If you need to use the bathroom, we have the porta potty to my right, your left. It has the red light on it so you can kind of see. Also, we have the sales desk to my left. I'm usually the one manning it, so if you need anything after the presentation, once I get back in there, I'll be more than happy to help you with it. UACNJ is a 5013C nonprofit, so all of the donations and whatnot you guys have provided through the pandemic and before that have all gone to helping keeping our lights on, helping us upgrade the stream, and do maintenance on our observatories. When you go to leave, please use your headlights. As much as we love our night vision, we love not being run over by cars even more. So, with that, we're going to get into our presentation, which is back to school science with Sean and Sebastien. Oh, I was told to, with ongoing technical issues, to try and stall for time. So, normally, when it is not completely overcast, after the presentation, we would invite you guys who are here in person to go check out the sheds over there. Each shed is actually an observatory, and it houses its own telescope. We have several different types of telescope. There are 6 sheds over there, as well as the one shed kind of tucked behind the house a little bit, which is the Greenwood Observatory. And like I said, normally on a clear night where you could actually see things besides clouds and fog, you would be able to check out our telescopes and be able to see what they are. Right now, we don't have if it's a UACNJ telescope, we do not have the eyepieces set up where normally you would look through the eyepiece and see what you can see through the scope. However, when the telescopes we do have set up, generally what we have been doing since the pandemic started for safety reasons, we have attached a camera instead of an eyepiece, and through a piece of software that I don't quite understand, but luckily I don't have to. I'm only expected to help run the stream and the sales desk. That basically is actually a piece of astrophotography software. They use that to live view and take pictures of what you would actually see if you were looking through the eyepiece and project that onto a projector on the side of each of the observatories that are open. Occasionally now, since restrictions have lifted and more people have been getting vaccinated, we have opened it up where if there are non-UACNJ telescopes, like a couple of our member clubs do have their own observatories with their own telescopes, we would have them, they have the ability where if they have their own eyepieces, they can actually have you look through the actual scope. But do keep in mind the sanitation required to kill most viruses and whatnot with the telescopes would actually also kill the eyepiece. So if you are feeling sick or anything, we ask that you refrain from looking through the eyepieces and enjoy, like Matt said, the slideshow type presentation. Slideshow's not quite the correct word. Of the images that you would have seen. So, I'm still stalling for time, apparently. Do we have an idea? Okay, so, since I'm still stalling for time, does anyone have actually any questions about UACNJ and what we do here? Anyone? Anyone else? All right. So, I guess we'll go on to a little bit about the club itself. UACNJ was actually founded as an umbrella club made up of all of the different clubs that have decided to be a part of us in New Jersey. We also have a couple in New York and one in PA. So a couple of the list, and they're all acronyms, so I apologize, are such as NJAA, NWJAA. No, that's too many A's. AAI, AAA. Okay, I got the. It's okay to turn it over now.
Yes. All right, thanks, Kim.
All right, so our intro for tonight is, like I said, the talk will be back to school science with Sebastien and Son Post. Sebastien will be entering 5th grade at Canfield Avenue School next week. His favorite subjects are science and math, and boy is he good at them. He hopes to be on the first manned mission to Mars when he's older. Sean was born 15 minutes before Apollo 11 lifted off to take man to land on the moon. Sean came with a love of space and science built in. He has an uncanny way of bringing the clouds to Jenny Jump every time he comes. Haven't failed us yet. And now he's sharing his love of space and science with his son, Sebastien. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
All right.
Oh, actually,
Yeah.
this goes to him.
Yes. All right, thanks, Kim. Thanks for coming out tonight. I brought the clouds. I'm really good at that. It's one of my superpowers. So yeah, we're going to talk about back to school science, and we've got a couple experiments that we're going to do. We're going to blow some stuff up, but we're going to talk about just what it takes to be. Am I getting buzzed by a cricket?
Cicada.
A cicada.
We finally hit
Nice.
the trees screaming.
Nice. It's probably warning us. So we're going to talk about thinking like a scientist and how failure is an option. Don't protect your kids from failing. Let them fail.
Yes.
Science is more fun when you do it, and we'll prove that tonight. And then we'll take a look at what we would have hoped to have seen tonight in the sky. I've used some software to get some screenshots of what we could have seen and what Ken would have loved to have shown you over there. And then we'll just, we'll go through the resources that I used in putting this together. And Sebastien also helped put this together. And then we will take some questions if anyone has any questions. So thinking like a scientist, it's not as hard as you think. And I'm going to kick it off with a video from Carl Sagan's, it was supposed to be his final interview back in 1996 with Charlie Rose on PBS, but he ended up doing another interview right before he died, which was on ABC. So we're going to kick this off and turn the settings on.
It's not that pseudoscience and superstition and
1 second.
so-called beliefs and fundamental zealotry are something new. They've been with us for as long as we've been human. But we live in an age based on science and technology, formidable technological power.
Science and technology are propelling us forward at accelerating rates.
That's right. And if we don't understand it, by we, I mean the general public, if it's something that, oh, I'm not good at that, I don't know anything about it, then who is making all the decisions about science and technology that are going to determine what kind of future our children live in? Just some members of Congress, but there's no more than a handful of members of Congress with any background in science at all. And the Republican Congress has just abolished its own Office of Technology Assessment, the organization that gave them bipartisan, competent advice on science and technology. They say, we don't want to know. Don't tell us about science.
Surprising. It's the danger of all this. I mean, you know, this is not the thing.
There's two kinds of dangers. One is what I just talked about, that we've arranged a society based on science and technology in which nobody understands anything about science and technology. And this combustible mixture of ignorance and power, sooner or later, is going to blow up in our faces. I mean, who is running the science and technology in a democracy if the people don't know anything about it? And the second reason that I'm worried about this is that science is more than a body of knowledge. It's a way of thinking, a way of skeptically interrogating the universe with a fine understanding of human fallibility. If we are not able to ask skeptical questions, to interrogate those who tell us that something is true, to be skeptical of those in authority, then we're up for grabs for the next charlatan, political or religious, who comes ambling along. It's a thing that Jefferson laid great stress on. It wasn't enough, he said, to enshrine some rights in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The people had to be educated, and they had to practice their skepticism and their education. Otherwise, we don't run the government. The government runs us.
Right?
Okay. Can you hear me now? All right. So 25 years ago is when he said that, and it's pretty close to coming true. So science starts with the scientific method. And it's 6 sometimes not so easy steps. The first step is to ask a question. See what the world is like around you. What is it that you're trying to figure out? Come up with a question. And then gather information to help you answer that question. It could be as simple as looking at things. It could be as crazy as setting up controlled experiments with double-blind groups and putting things on the space station. It goes everywhere. But once you get that information, you're going to create an answer. And after you have your answer, you're going to test it. And you'll see if other people can replicate your answer with their own information that they gather using the same steps you did. You're going to compare that answer to your test results, and you're going to present your conclusion, and you could change the world. Or just have learned a little bit. And that's the same thing for a kindergartner and someone going for a PhD. It's always the same 6 steps. They get a little more complex, but it's always the same thing. And with the scientific method, like we said before, failure is an option. You are going to fail a lot when you're doing science, when you're trying to invent things. Charles Kettering said that an inventor will fail 999 times, but if he succeeds once, he's in. And treats his failures simply as practice shots. Sir James Dyson said that failure is so much more interesting because you learn from it. That's what we should be teaching children at school, that being successful the first time, there's nothing in it. There's no interest, you don't learn anything. Malcolm Forbes just said failure is success if we learn from it. And Thomas Edison, many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success before they gave up. There was, we'll talk about this a little bit later, there was recently a set of interviews, just a conversation that one of my favorite YouTubers got with Elon Musk down at SpaceX at their Boca Chica launch facility. Almost 3 hours. They walked around, got a tour, and Elon was talking about, design process in great detail, and talking about the steps that you have to take in order, and talked about one of the failures that they had with the Model S, where they had the battery pack was slowing down the production line when they went to attach the battery pack to the bottom of the car. It was failing tests, it was slowing down the line. He went in, Elon himself went in and tried to optimize the robot to make it go faster. That didn't help. And finally they looked at it step by step and they saw that what was really holding up the line was a piece of fiberglass that was on top of the batteries but below where the car would be. And when they tried to install it, it was 4 little dots of glue, 4 little dots of adhesive that weren't holding it correctly. And that's what was failing. So he asked the battery team, what's this do? Is it? And they're like, oh, that's it's for noise reduction. It's like, you're the battery team, not the noise team. So he goes to the noise team. And the noise team says, that's for fire safety, not noise reduction. So it goes to the fire safety team. And the fire safety team's like, it's for noise reduction. And so they set up a experiment where they had the piece of plexiglass out and they ran tests to see how loud it was inside the car and couldn't find a difference. And so everything was from something that shouldn't have been there in the first place. SpaceX has always been very public with their failures. If you've watched any of the recent Starship launches and crashes, you got to see a lot of really nice explosions. But back when they were first designing Falcon and testing it and trying to learn how to land it, they had a lot of failures. So if you want to go ahead and hit the button there, bud. And this is a video that they put together. So each one of those explosions is about $50 million. So they failed lots of times in learning how to land that booster, but now they've done it, and they've used the same booster 10 times, which reduces the effective cost for a launch from $50 million down to about $5 million. A lot less to get stuff into space, and that's part of the key to their success, is being able to reuse their rockets. So science is more fun when you do it. So we're going to start our first little observation experiment. And for all you kids, if you want to come up a little bit closer to see a little bit better, this is going to be something we're going to do right on screen here. And you're going to be able to try this experiment right here on screen. So if there were no clouds, where will the moon be and how will it look? So if there were no clouds, tomorrow morning at 10:30, if you look to the west, you'd see a half moon hovering up above the horizon. On Monday at 10:30, if you looked in the same spot, the moon would be up and to the left a little bit. And on Tuesday at 10:30, it would be up a little bit farther and a little bit more, a little bit less of a half moon, more of a crescent. So knowing those three data points, where would you think it's going to be on Wednesday at 10:30? All right, so a little bit up and farther in towards the center. And what's it going to look like?
A little smaller.
A little bit smaller. So that's right. It's going to be up. It's about south-southwest, and it'll be a little bit more than a crescent. You might not even really be able to see it, even if it's a clear sky, just because there's not going to be much moon to see. But that's something that you can do pretty much any time, is pick a day when you can see the moon, and then go and look at it again the same time the next day and see where it is. And you can track that month over month and year over year. But now we're going to try that with the sun. And as a warning, please do not look directly into the sun. Everybody all together, please do not look directly into the sun. All right? It's bad. So what you're going to need, and this is an experiment that you can do at home. It's great for kids of all ages. You're going to need a relatively unobstructed view to the south, a window on that, for that view, a flat surface like a table, some paper, and a marker or a pen or pencil. And in the morning, when the sun starts coming through that window, you're going to put the paper down on the table, and you're going to tape it down or hold it down somehow so it doesn't move. And you're just going to pick one part of a shadow and mark where that shadow is on the paper. And then come back an hour later and mark down where that same spot is now. And keep going. Every hour, make a new mark until you don't have a shadow to mark anymore. What do you think that line of dots is going to look like? It's going to look like an arc. And because we can't look directly at the sun, but the people at PBS did have a camera that they set up to look at the sun, it'll look kind of like this, where the sun moves across the sky and it goes up in an arc. And depending on what time of year it is, the sun might be higher in the sky, it might be lower in the sky, but it's always going to be some sort of an arc. And that's great for one day. But we can do the same thing, doing it for the year. And again, please do not look directly at the sun. So what we're going to need for this is a relatively unobstructed view to the south, a window, a flat surface, a paper, and a marker. And we're going to need a year for this. So at noon, or whatever time works best for you that you can do throughout the year, you're going to make a mark looking at the shadow on that paper. And then each day at noon or whatever time you've chosen, you're going to come back and you're going to mark it again. And you're going to make a new mark every day for a year. So after a year, what do you think that shape's going to look like? What was that? A line? Okay. Anyone else? All right. The answer is actually, it's going to look kind of like a figure 8. And, okay, I couldn't hear him, but that's great. So this is what it would look like. This is what it did look like when Cesar Cantu set up his camera in the afternoon in Mexico and took a series of shots over the course of a year. That's the position of the sun every single day at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if I remember that correctly. Now, if he did this at noon, the figure 8 would be straight up and down. But because he did it in the afternoon, it's tilted a little bit to the right. If he did it in the morning, it'd be tilted a little bit to the left. And who wants to guess why one end of the figure 8 is longer than the other one? Because the Earth's orbit around the sun is not a circle. The speed's not constant. So at one point, when we're closer to the sun, we're going faster. And when we're farther away from the sun, we're going slower. So in the northern hemisphere, we are farther away from the sun. And the sun's higher in the sky. But because we're not moving as fast, the top of the figure 8 gets kind of condensed down. But in the winter, we're closer to the sun, so the Earth is moving faster, so the sun looks like it moves a little bit more. So winters technically go a little bit quicker. Doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But that's the shape that you would get, something along those lines. And there is actually a name for that shape. It's called an analemma. But that's an experiment that anyone, anywhere can do with just a piece of paper and some patience. Now, something else that you can do, and it's going to require a family member or a friend or somebody that you know that lives at least 500 miles south, is measuring the Earth. So you're going to need a yardstick and a ruler. You're going to need a flat outdoor surface like a sidewalk, and your friend or family member that's 500 or more miles away to the south are also going to need a yardstick, a ruler, and a flat surface. You're going to have to know some trigonometry, though. But that's easy. So on a day where both you and your partner have a clear sky, at the same time of the day, you're going to set up your yardstick and you're going to measure the length of the shadows cast by your yardsticks. And you're going to get the distance, the length of that shadow that they have, and you're going to calculate the angle difference that's cast. Now, this is not new. This was actually done about 2,200 years ago by a Greek astronomer named Eratosthenes. And the people at Business Insider put together a really, really good short video about how that went down.
In the mid-20th century, we began launching satellites into space that would help us determine the exact circumference of the Earth, 40,030 kilometers. But over 2,000 years earlier in ancient Greece, a man arrived at nearly that exact same figure by putting a stick in the ground. That man was Eratosthenes, a Greek mathematician and the head of the Library of Alexandria. Eratosthenes had heard that in Syene, a city to the south of Alexandria, no vertical shadows were cast at noon on the summer solstice. The sun was directly overhead. He wondered if this were also true in Alexandria. So on June 21st, he planted a stick vertically in the ground and waited to see if a shadow would be cast at noon. It turns out there was one, and it measured about 7 degrees. Now, if the sun's rays are coming in at the same angle at the same time of day, and a stick in Alexandria is casting a shadow while a stick in Syene is not, it must mean that the Earth's surface is curved. And Eratosthenes probably already knew that. The idea of a spherical Earth was floated by Pythagoras around 500 BC and validated by Aristotle a couple centuries later. If the Earth really was a sphere, Eratosthenes could use his observations to estimate the circumference of the entire planet. Since the difference in shadow length is 7 degrees between Alexandria and Syene, that means the two cities are 7 degrees apart on Earth's 360-degree surface. Eratosthenes hired a man to pace the distance between the two cities, and learned they were 5,000 stadia apart, which is about 800 kilometers. He could then use simple proportions to find the Earth's circumference. 7.2 degrees is 1/50th of 360 degrees. So 800 kilometers times 50 equals 40,000 kilometers. And just like that, a man 2,200 years ago found the circumference of the entire planet with just a stick and his brain.
Now, if I was the guy that had to walk the 500 miles between Alexandria and Syene, I'd want it named after me. But we don't know who that was. So, all right. So that's another experiment that you can do. And now we're going to do some physics. And we're going to have a challenge for everybody. We have 4 physics equations up on the screen.
And I'm going to solve them all.
He's going to solve them all
I'm going to solve them all.
before anyone else can. So we're going to give you, we'll do like 30 seconds. If you need to come closer, you can come closer. It's fine. I can guarantee you're not going to solve these equations, though. All right. Y'all give up, right? Here we go. Ready? You just solved all 4 equations. That's the equations for distance traveled, time of flight, altitude, and angle of elevation for a projectile. So when you're having a catch, you're doing physics, and you don't even know it. You're solving 4 equations. And with that, I've talked enough, so now it's time for Science with Sebastien. And Sebastien is going to show you how to make a cloud in a bottle. All right, ready? Okay. So we have just a regular plastic soda bottle.
Put some alcohol in it.
A little bit of rubbing alcohol in it.
And a ball pump.
And we've got a air pump from Dick's, not sponsoring our video, but that's where we got it from. But any air pump. And we've got a little piece of clay inside. We punched a hole through the cap so the air pump could go through. And we're going to pump this up about 75 times. So you might have to, and it's probably not going to show up very well anyways, just because it's dark and there's no lights up here. But we have a video. Where are we?
So when you want to hold it up.
Please stand by while we pump.
Hold on a second. I don't think we got the clay in here good, bud.
The puncture.
Let's try it again. All right. See, lots of failures in science. All right. And we failed at screwing the cap on as well. But everyone fails at that.
Even Elon Musk, who does not a lot
Okay.
of.
Come hold this. Come hold this bottle, bud. Hold it nice and tight. Hold up there.
This is turning into straw.
Yeah, this is what happens when you're doing this on no budget. But in a little bit, I've got a video from somebody that does have a budget. All right, so hopefully this will come out. There's nothing in there right now. It's nice and clear. And you see a little bit of a cloud in there.
Yeah, it kind of looks like smoke.
All right, so you want to explain why that works?
So, why this works is, well, you have,
All right, I'll give you the slide. But so why cloud in a bottle works?
adding air to the bottle compresses the air inside. When suddenly the air pressure suddenly decreases, the air cools.
You can read it over here, bud.
The water vapor droplets stick together to form clouds. That's how real clouds are made. It's by, water plus sun equals water vapor equals cloud.
All right, so this is one of our favorite channels. This is Steve Spangler Science, and he does all sorts of experiments like
Hey,
this.
Steve Spangler from the Spangler Effect with another demonstration from Spangler Lab.
He's
Take
got a
look at
budget.
This.
Not fair.
It's the cloud in a bottle, the way it's supposed to look. Watch this. Here's the pressure. Now we release. 3, 2, 1. Bam. That is how the cloud in the bottle is supposed to look, or at least how I want it to look on TV, in the classroom, on stage. That, in my mind, is a great cloud in a bottle. Now, I want to deconstruct the demonstration because the way I learned to do it and the way that all of the original books show to do it is very, very different. So I want to show you how we get to this, but I think it's really important that you understand where we came from, okay? All right, so the original idea was this. You might have seen a different variation of it. What we're trying to do is, in all of them, you need a little bit of moisture inside. So it always starts with just a little bit of water. Okay, so a little bit of water. And then what you're trying to do is you want that to evaporate to some extent. So we're moving around inside. We're just have a little bit of moisture that's inside, right? And so we want some evaporation, and then we want condensation. So the air that we're going to push down inside is going to add energy to this, right? It's going to keep those molecules up, push more molecules inside. They're rubbing against each other, adding energy inside here. That helps the evaporation. And then when you release the pressure drastically, then that condensation is supposed to turn into a cloud. And the way that you're supposed to do that is with matches. All right, so the matches are here, and you're supposed to now create some smoke. So here's good. So let's get this burning nicely. And then we just want to introduce the smoke into the bottle. All right, there we go. So here's our smoke in the bottle. Doesn't have to have a lot. Good. All right. So that, I'm going to put this on so it stays there for us. That is the setup. All right. So this part is how we build up the pressure. We're using a hand pump, right, or a foot pump. We're using our hand to be able to pump it like this. And then if you come in and you take a look at this, this is kind of the secret. This is a valve stem that I got from an auto parts store. And I put it through a rubber stopper. So that is the secret. That rubber stopper had to be shaved down a little bit, but fits perfectly into the bottle. So when this goes here like this, it stays in place. Got it? It will easily pop off, but it stays in place. And now my glass is on. And now I'm going to hold this down like this and pump. And so now here's what we're doing. We're adding air, right? We're increasing the pressure. There's more air that's going inside. I'm going to look at the gauge here and make sure that I'm not putting more than about 20, 25 pounds of pressure inside. You sometimes can hear the bottle start to crinkle just a little tiny bit. All right, so that's more than enough pressure. So now watch what happens. 3, 2, 1, we release. And that is supposed to be the cloud in the bottle. That is not at all what it looked like before, right? So while you do get a little bit of condensation there, it's just not drastic enough, and the effect isn't dramatic enough that it's exciting. So that's why we had to come up with a different variation. So this variation uses smoke and water. Remember, the new variation does not use smoke and it does not use water. And it's really, really important that we don't have matches or anything with this one, because the secret to this one is rubbing alcohol. See, I chose 70% rubbing alcohol just because I knew that I could make that evaporate faster. And I didn't worry about the condensation. I understand as part of the premise here is that you've got particles in the air and the water condenses on those particles. And you can definitely use this as part of the demonstration. I just wanted this to go faster and look a little bit better. And so the secret is just a little bit of that rubbing alcohol. So here's our 70% rubbing alcohol. So I'm going to spin this around. Now I'm going to do the same thing as before, but no smoke at all. You don't want to get any matches, anything near this at all. So our valve stem goes up here. We're going to do the same as before. We're going to increase the pressure. And then as soon as we release the pressure, those molecules are going to go from a high state of energy to a lower state of energy. Anything that's evaporated will condense, and that's where we're going to get the cloud. So watch how different the effect is here. So again, I'm going to watch it carefully, make sure I'm not putting more than about 20 pounds of pressure in there. Oh, did you hear it? So you can start to hear it kind of pushing out. All right, here we go. I think that's probably pretty good. Watch this. 3, 2, 1, bam, and there's your cloud. Now watch, I'm going to cap it back off again. So I've trapped the cloud in here, and now I'm going to continue to add pressure. Really kind of simulates the burn off of fog in the morning. Watch this. As we increase that pressure, look, fog starts to disappear, cloud vanishes, very cool. Look at this. So now we are back to the process again. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, bam, and there's our cloud. So if you've ever done a soda bottle rocket, many times you'll see that bottle in the air have kind of a white look to it and it comes down. You are getting somewhat of a cloud inside with those high pressures and again being released. But it's our version of the cloud in the bottle. The secret is a little bit of that 70% rubbing alcohol. Should give you a great cloud in the bottle every time. Please don't mix up the two. You can use the two as two different demonstrations to be able to show the variation, but it's a new little twist and hopefully one that you'll be able to use. As always, you can visit Steve Spangler Science.
All right, so now we're going to blow something up. A balloon. So, this is the balloon inflator experiment. Hold on, don't get too excited, bud. So, sodium bicarbonate. Big, fancy, scary word. What is sodium bicarbonate? Baking soda.
Yeah.
You probably have it in your kitchen. Acetic acid. Big, scary word. What is acetic acid?
Vinegar.
It is vinegar.
Yes.
Also probably in your kitchen. And when you mix sodium bicarbonate and acetic acid, you get a mess. So the balloon inflator, it works because the reaction between vinegar and baking soda creates carbon dioxide, water, and sodium acetate. The CO2 is going to increase the air pressure in the bottle. The balloon is supposed to expand as that air moves in. And if you want to go ahead, we've already preloaded the bottle with vinegar and the balloon with baking soda. So if you just take that and flip it up. And give it a good swirl.
Just do it.
Yep, some of the baking soda gets trapped in the balloon. But there we go, we've blown up a balloon using chemistry. Now, sodium acetate. Sounds scary. Sodium acetate is used as an additive in foods, in industry, in concrete, in heating pads, and in buffer solutions. So you can put it in pretty much anything. And it's also used in IVs as an electrolyte replenisher. That comes from the National Library of Medicine. It's from the government. You can trust them. Yeah, something that's used in concrete and in food. Yum. All right. So that's the demonstration part of our talk tonight. So we're going to talk about stars, planets, and things that go bump in the night. And since we have clouds, we're going to have to do this with technology. So if we were to look at the southeastern sky, which would be right over about that way, in about 10 minutes from now, we would see three pretty bright things. And this picture doesn't really tell you anything about what those are going to be, but with the magic of technology, we can see that there is Jupiter and Saturn, and Ken would have loved to have had one of those up. If you have never seen the rings of Saturn through a telescope, highly suggest that you do. Also, the moons of Jupiter, you can see 4 of them, and every night they'll be in a different spot. And then there's a bright star up towards the top of that picture named Altair. We're going to come back to that. But you can see some of the constellations. I've got the lines put up there. And some of the Milky Way that you could see here on a nice, clear, dry night. We've seen it before, but not when I'm here because there's always clouds. So now if we look at the southwestern sky, which would be back over this way, there is a big, bright red star called Antares. It is the heart of the Scorpion constellation. And also up higher in the sky is another big, bright, reddish-orange star called Arcturus. And also, going down to the south, you'd be able to see the Milky Way, almost going straight up and down. If we look back over to the north-northeast, this is one of Ken's favorites, is to be able to show you things like the Andromeda Galaxy. The Andromeda Galaxy is heading straight for us. We won't be around when it gets here in a couple billion years, though. It's okay. The Andromeda Galaxy is coming right for the Milky Way galaxy. They are going to go collide and combine. And all sorts of interesting things could happen, or nothing could happen. It would just be new stars in the sky. There are also a bunch of different star clusters and nebula that you'd be able to see looking up that way. After the presentation, they're going to have some pictures going up on the screen that have been taken by some of the astrophotographers here at Jenny Jump. It's really interesting, but on a clear night, if you just keep an eye on things for a Saturday when it's going to be clear, I promise I won't be here. They have the telescopes open. You can see a lot better things. And if you look straight up, instead of clouds, you'd see the Milky Way going across the sky, and you'd see 3 really bright stars. Altair in the upper right, Vega in the center, and Deneb in the lower right. Altair is big and bright, and it's about 16 light years away. So the light that came from that we'd be seeing tonight started on its way about 16 years ago. Vega is a little bit brighter. It's 25 light years away. So 25 years of light and photons traveling to get to us just to hit clouds. Really sad for those photons. If you saw the movie Contact, Vega was where the aliens were. And then in the lower right is Deneb. Deneb is also big and bright. And how far away do you think Deneb is? Just as bright about as Vega and Altair, very prominent in the sky. Anyone want to take a guess on how far away it is? What's that? 55? 35? It is about 1,440 light years away. And just as bright in the sky as the other two stars that are much, much closer. So that means it's a really big star. And that light has been coming here for 1.5 millennia. So unfortunately, we're not going to see those tonight. Thank you, weather. There's also some stuff that we're not going to be able to see tonight. But one of the things that you can do on our site, we have a link to the clear sky chart. This is great because it can show you the predictions on, is it going to be cloudy? How transparent the sky is. And what that means is how much water vapor is in the sky, because water vapor makes it a little tougher to see. It blocks out a lot of the dimmer things. Seeing is a combination of the two. It's going to be either really bad or really good. And then the darkness. So during the day, it gets bright white because the sun's out. You're only going to see one star in the sky during the daytime, assuming there's no clouds. At night, it gets darker, but if the moon comes out during the night, that washes out a lot of the dimmer stars too. So this is something that's used by all of our astronomers here to plan when they're going to come up during the week. If you are a member of one of our clubs, and I believe Kim's going to go over that if she didn't already during the introduction. If you're a member of one of the clubs, you can come up here during the week. You're not restricted to just Saturday nights during public night. And you have access to a scope and you can look at things. And during clear nights, the mailing list lights up with people who are coming up here. There is very rarely a clear night, even in the winter. If it's a clear night, there will be people up here. So the clear sky chart, if you click on one of those blocks, it'll show you what they think the cloud cover is going to look like. And of course, this little tiny picture here, really hard to make out because New Jersey is a tiny little thing towards the center. So we'll zoom in a little bit. And that's what the clouds look like tonight. A big white spiral of clouds centered right on us because I'm here. I am. Thanks for noticing me. So, one of the things that we'd be able to see if you're going to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's going to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning? All right. There was supposed to be, this morning at about 3 o'clock in the morning, there was supposed to be a launch from Cape Kennedy of one of the cargo dragons going up to the space station. It didn't fly last night because the weather was bad. So they're trying again tonight at about 3:15 in the morning. It's going to launch to the northeast. And so on a clear night, from New Jersey, you can catch the tail end of the launch. It's a lot better if you go down in person. We were down in March, and we were up at 4 in the morning for a launch, and we were about 7 miles away, and you could still feel it. So tonight, this morning, tomorrow morning, it's all confusing, at about 4:40, if you're outside and there is no clouds in the sky, hopefully I won't be near you, you're going to get to see something really cool. The ISS, the International Space Station, is going to fly over. And because the way it works, it's about 400 kilometers up. So it comes out of the Earth's shadow while we're still in the shadow. And that's how you can see it. The sky's still dark, but it's reflecting sunlight. It's going to pop into the sky, in the middle of the sky, because it comes out of shadow. Most times when we see it, it goes horizon to horizon. But this time it's going to be almost overhead and just pop into vision and continue off. If they manage to launch the cargo dragon, you'll also be able to see that. And it looks like a little dot, and it'd be moving in the same direction as it's chasing the space station to catch up. One of the things I like to do when I'm up here, even though it's always cloudy, is look for satellites and space junk. And one of the things that we got robbed of tonight is the Chinese space station. It was at about 8:45 going to come up from the western horizon, go exactly directly overhead, and go off to the east. It'd be a huge, the brightest thing in the sky by far. You couldn't miss it if you tried. and we're not going to see it as it flies over. There is a site called Heavens Above. It's one of the sites that lets you take a look at, you tell it where you are and what time you're going to be looking at things, and it will tell you what's up there. And there is a lot of stuff up there. There's a bunch of satellites, but most of what we see, if you see them, and it looks like little just dots moving across the sky, it's not anything useful. It's junk. It's spent rocket bodies. It's spent second stages that haven't come back down to Earth yet and may never come back down to Earth. And you can see them as they fly along. There are currently over 100,000 pieces of space junk in orbit around the Earth that are tracked. Those are a little bit bigger than a nut for a screw. There are a lot more that are smaller than that that can't be tracked. And so that's something that they have to be careful of when they're launching, is looking for things. And there is a person whose job on the Earth is to monitor the space around the space station to make sure that there is nothing coming that could hit the space station. It's actually 3 people's jobs because they do it in shifts. A job that didn't exist 25 years ago. And now you can sit there and watch a computer monitor and look to see what's going to hit the space station. So some of the planning references that you can use, and this is not an exhaustive list. Spaceflight Now has the launch schedule for launches from around the world. And most of the launches get streamed. If you go to Twitch or YouTube, you can find somebody that is streaming coverage of a launch from Russia, from India, from South America, from New Zealand. Sometimes even from China, they'll stream their launches. Stellarium is the program that I used to generate the star maps earlier. It is an absolutely 100% free program that you can download for your computer or your phone. It is a wonderful piece of software. You can tell it where you are or where you think you're going to be and give it a time, and it'll show you what the sky will look like. It can show you just stars, it can show you planets, it can give you all the information. If you click on a planet, it'll tell you everything there is to know about that planet. It's really, really cool, really fun to play with. It's one of those programs that you start using at about 9 o'clock, and then you look and it's like, wow, I got to go to work in 2 hours. Really fun to get lost in that. Sky and Telescope, their website, they have a weekly publication of what you can look at. Heavens Above does the sky charts. You can print those out and bring them with you if you want to look for things, or you can just look from your backyard if you have a pretty decent view of the sky. And then Celestia is another program. It's kind of like Stellarium, but a little bit different, because you can do tours of the solar system or anything else that people have made tours and uploaded them, and it will fly you around from point of interest to point of interest and get nice up close looks at planets, at the sun, at stars. It gives you information about it. Really, really great stuff to get lost with. And that there's hundreds more. If you Google for them or Bing for them or Safari for them, whichever search. I don't have Apple stuff, so I don't know what it's called. But if you search for it, there's so much out there, and for phones as well. Some online resources. I talked about for Everyday Astronaut, Tim Dodd. Just a guy. Loves science. Started a YouTube channel. Has millions of subscribers now. Got his interview with Elon Musk. He put it up on his, it's on his YouTube channel, 3 parts. If you're into design, engineering, or just want to hear one of the smartest guys on the planet just going on completely in his element, just talking about stuff that it's probably going to go over most people's heads. Tim actually does a great job of breaking it down and making it a little bit more digestible. He also covers a lot of launches. He'll stream a lot of launches, and just makes it very, very accessible for most people. Another great website especially for kids and families, is the Curiosity Machine. And they actually have design challenges where they'll give you a problem and give you tools to design a solution. And somebody who is a professional in the industry will come back, even if you're a first grader doing something, will come back and give you feedback based on what you've designed. We have our kids astronomy section here on the UACNJ website, which is a great resource. NASA Space Place. NASA has a bunch of different channels. One of their best channels, the one that I like to just put up, is a live camera feed from the space station as it's just going around the Earth. It's just pointing down at the Earth, looking down, and you can see whatever it sees. So at night, you can see the lights from the cities. When it flies over me, you see the clouds. Astronomy has an Astronomy for Kids section, the Astronomy magazine online. And then there's also Kids Astronomy. So there's a bunch of different websites that you can go to for information. Some of Sebastian's favorite channels.
So, we have the Backyard Scientist, which he's pretty much a lot about science. He does a lot of experiments. His recent video was an induction coil boiling steel. And then we have Nile Red, which is a little more advanced, so it's more of just the chemistry more than the actual entertainment. And he literally just does chemistry experiments, like a lot of chemistry. And then we have TKOR, which stands for the King of Random, and they do a lot of fun experiments and things, like they built a human catapult to launch someone into a river. So, yeah. And then we have How Ridiculous. And there's some pretty ridiculous stuff on How Ridiculous.
So these are some guys from Australia that have access to a 45-meter tower, and you'll see it in the video clip that we're going to play here. And they do experiments where they'll drop things from 45 meters up. And so this one is one of my favorites. It's a big giant dart made out of steel versus some planes of bulletproof glass.
Don't know. Tell you what, Heron, the flyers are ready. Are you?
Yeah, mate, not a single fly up here. It's great.
Oh, yeah.
The power in my hands.
What do you reckon, everyone? Hashtag this is flipping nuts.
All right, countdown. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, yeah. Hit it middle. Oh, oh, go.
Down. It's down.
3, 2, 1, go.
Down. Down.
Oh, it's through. It's through. What? It is flipping through.
Look at it, Stanford.
No, like, we should put this in the office just as it is. Well, we're not going to be able to get him out. Like, that is amazing. That is outrageous. What the stuff? Bulletproof. Not giant dart proof, folks.
It's just a piece of art.
Like,
And it's fun.
that is like sword in the stone. Could you try and move it? Or you don't want to?
I'm not joking. I want this thing for the rest of my life. Just have a look at the top here. Just the way that the glass has reacted. You see, like, the cloudiness around, like, it's very even.
Oh, I see it. It's cloudy.
Dude, there's something to talk about science about that.
There's something to talk about science.
Oh, that's the stuff. That's actually the stuff, you know what I mean?
Polycarbonate.
So, is that the plastic, the white stuff?
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's all powdery, but I think that's from the plastic.
So yeah, they do a lot of things like that. Bowling balls versus bulletproof glass. They did a dropping 10,000 ping pong balls from the roof of a stadium just to set up high-speed cameras and watch the fun of all the balls bouncing around.
And in slow motion, it literally looks like a meteor is hitting on the earth, is hitting down onto the earth, and it looks like an upside down mushroom cloud. If you've ever seen a nuclear explosion in game, then that's what it pretty much looks like, just on its head.
All right. So we're going to wrap this up, and I like to, whenever I do my presentations up here, I like to end with this video. February 14th, 1990, they turned Voyager 2 around. It was 4 billion miles away from the Earth, and it snapped this picture. Now, who can see the Earth in this picture? Not you. It is that little tiny white dot there.
That is
Right,
tiny.
but that is Earth, and Carl Sagan wrote about this. And this is from his official website, or that they keep doing for. Keep going. And this is just.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they can become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
All right, so I've the recording of this will be online, so you'll be able to come back if you've missed any of the links or anything. I've got all my sources that we used for this, and now we've got time if there are any questions.
All right. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sebastian, for a wonderful presentation. All right. So tonight, we're doing a Q&A session. I have been monitoring online chat. I do notice we had a couple questions. Even now. So what's going to happen is we're going to kind of do back and forth. I'm going to ask one of our online questions, and then I'm going to take one from you guys. Please, for your guys' questions, please wait till I get up to you so you can speak into the mic, because chances are a question you want to ask is also something someone online might want to ask, but might be a little too shy to speak up about it. So, to start us off, for the Marking the Shadow for a Year experiment, how are we taking into account daylight savings time?
You can just ignore it. So if you start when it's daylight savings time, just ignore it when it happens. And instead of doing it, like if you're doing it at noon and the clocks go forward, just do it at 11. It's the same time. So just subtract out or add back in the hour depending on when you start.
Right. Was there a question out in our audience? And you're going to have to raise your hand and kind of wave it about a bit, because I have trouble seeing in the dark. Anyone?
Someone's got a question.
You said,
I didn't do that great of a job. Someone's got to have a question.
all right. Well, if we don't have a question for you, I'll go on to the next online question. For measuring the Earth, does the east-west distance matter? And they're guessing that if the person watching this is from a more southerly clime, they could use a friend in the more northern parts.
Yes. Yeah, so you can go north or south depending, and if let's say your partner is in Arizona, just do whatever time it is there. You want to do, if you do yours at noon, have them do theirs at noon. So they do it 2 hours or 3 hours later, depending on where they are in Arizona.
Right.
So it could be around the world. You just have to know the difference in time zones.
Ooh, that adds math. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, Eratosthenes had it easy because he was going from somebody that was going from 0 as an angle, and you're not going to get to go from 0 as an angle, so you're going to have to do some subtraction.
All right. Question?
This is where somebody usually asks me about my superpower of attracting clouds. And I don't know why. It just happens.
One of these days they'll allow me to get my hands on that weather machine and I'll fix it. But until then.
Shh, don't let them know I control the weather.
So you're the culprit.
Yes.
Do we need to do this in the Klingon fashion where I have to off you to get the control of it?
It doesn't work like that.
Aw.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, since I'm just putting out a last call for any questions online, just a couple things for you guys here, because I think a couple of you actually came while the presentation was already in full force. If you need to use the bathroom here, the porta potty is to my right, your left. We also have a little gift shop that I usually man the sales desk, so you'll have to wait till I get over there. But all the proceeds from that do go to keeping our lights on, us offering the free public programs, and offering the public outreach. It also helps to our upkeep and maintenance of all the telescopes and equipment we do have. Please do check us out on our website. It has a whole bunch of links, like Sean has mentioned, on our member clubs. Do check out your local astronomy club. Honestly, they are one of the best resources you will ever find local to you. They can answer all your questions, and a lot of times, if you're just getting into astronomy, they'll have tips more tailored to the area you actually live and work and is easily accessible for you to get started. Do check us out on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Like we said, all our broadcasts since the pandemic have been broadcast and archived there. So go check out some past broadcasts as well. It does look like, even though we do not have any of the observatories open to view the sky, since we are still under heavy cloud cover, we do have a slideshow made of past days that we have been able to open the observatories, and they are images taken through those scopes. So, also, when you do leave, please use your headlights. We don't like getting run over. You don't like getting run over. And even though we enjoy our night vision, we prefer not getting hurt. So, with that, thank you all for coming. Since I do not see any more online questions, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sebastian. And have a good night.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight.
All right. That was